nightmare retirement consultation.
Yeah, no pain, no gain, right? No risk, no reward, right? We're going all risk, see? We're going to put everything you got in the market. You're going to love it.
Don't walk, run from that office and go to your future retirement partner with your best interest in mind. With a retirement plan that includes growth, protection, and income. So you can sleep well at night. Call Brian Gaiser of Gaiser Financial, 888-285-0829, 888-285-0829.
Brian Gaiser is an investment advisor representative of Advisory Alpha LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed by Brian Gaiser are solely his own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Advisory Alpha. This recording is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Investment advisory and financial planning services offered through Advisory Alpha LLC, a registered investment advisor. Insurance, coaching, and education services offered through Gaiser Financial Group. Gaiser Financial Group is a separate and unaffiliated entity from Advisory Alpha LLC. While tax and legal issues may be discussed in the general course of financial and investment planning, Advisory Alpha does not provide tax or legal services. Please consult with your tax or legal professional prior to making decisions relative to these issues. The case studies presented reflect the specific circumstances of one client and should not be considered a guarantee that another client or potential client may experience the same or certain levels of results. This is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as investment recommendation or solicitation. Names have been changed to protect the anonymity of clients and are not testimonial in nature.
Retirement is all about change and how we adjust to those changes. Today, we're going to outline some things that may be unexpected change, and we're talking about more than money, but health too. Stay tuned.
Achieving wealth in your retirement.
Get on the right road in the beginning now so that you don't make big mistakes down the road in retirement.
A better life in your retirement.
My parents made some costly mistakes, and I am passionate about helping people avoid those same mistakes.
Brian Gaiser can help you get there.
I want to be your accountability partner in retirement.
It's Wealth Through Wisdom Radio with your host, Brian Gaiser.
Welcome to Wealth Through Wisdom with Brian Gaiser. I'm Chuck Caton, along with Greensboro's own Brian Gaiser. He's the creator, as you know, of the P4 retirement process, which is your financial compass. That means to be proactive, to plan, to pursue, and to prosper. And you see that beautiful face of his every Sunday at 6 on ABC 45. And I'm telling you right now, he actually combs his hair on his show, too. Wealth Through Wisdom Television on Sundays at 6 o'clock on ABC 45. Well, you talked about the late, what was it, David Bowie talked about changes. He stuttered a little bit. Yeah. Oh, okay. It's Bowie, Maryland, David Bowie. You're right.
There you go.
Let's talk about some of these things, Mr. Okay, yeah, sing that. Give me a bar of that, will you?
Time to face the change.
Oh.
And it is time to face the change.
You're absolutely right. So when we talk about people who are going to enter retirement, Brian, obviously 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 30, well, this year, at least in the month of February, it'll be 29 days, and usually 30 to 31. And that means you have to change your daily routine, I would think, when you have all that time now that you're not taking up punching a clock. Let's talk about that daily routine, and that's one of the big changes we're talking about, aren't we?
Yeah, that extra day in February really throws people.
You mean that's Cam Ward's birthday? You know, he was.
I know a set of twins born on that day.
Okay, well, all right. How old are they now? Because Cam's 7.
Cam's 7.
No, he's 8 actually. Yeah, he's 8 years old because he's 32.
Almost one.
You know what I mean, right? Because they only celebrate their birthday every 4 years. So Cam can say I'm only 8 years old.
And they made it by 2 minutes.
Yeah.
One was 2 minutes after 12. The other was 5 minutes after 12.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. But that daily routine does change, doesn't it? When you're in retirement, you've got to fill that time somehow.
Yeah, you know, it really does. You know what you don't do, Chuck? You don't retire and then decide, oh, now how am I going to fill this? I think that's a big mistake people make because you can fall into this issue of, I'll talk about this later and throughout the show, but there's a book, Atomic Habits. I know I repeat myself on this, but I really think folks ought to read it. Also, I think you ought to read 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. That's some of the information and some of the share that I have today for, you know, just good thoughts. I mean, it's really about thoughts more than anything. And that's why we're wealth through wisdom. But I think this is one of the most genius statements. And the guy says, and this is James Clear with Atomic Habits, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your habits. And I think people that retire and go, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do, or I know I'm going to, help out at the church more. No, you really got to be specific. Living by a schedule, which is a big part of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, much, much more in that book. But I like the way he explains living by a schedule. But you've really got to go ahead and schedule your retirement. Schedule that first month. Don't retire unless you have a scheduled first month of what you're going to do. That's what helps you transition. I even wrote an article for CNN Money, and that was built around, transitioning into retirement. Don't retire, transition. And it really is all about that. It's all about getting that routine right out of the gate. Right out of the gate. You're no longer at work. You don't have these social little networks. You don't have the water cooler. You don't have these regular stops where you get to catch up with clients that say you sell lumber throughout the state of North Carolina, and you go around, you sell lumber to wholesale groups, and you meet with these folks. Once, twice, maybe 3 times a year, and you're going to lose those relationships because the chances of hanging on those relationships are going to be slim. Hopefully you'll pop a phone call and things of that nature, but people really take it for granted, Chuck, and they need to step up to the plate when it comes to daily routines. And how do you do that? You immediately live by a schedule that is comforting to you. Once again, you don't have to take work home with you anymore. That's the thing you want to lose.
Well, that's interesting because there's other aspects to a retired life that you have to look at, and one of the other things is your social life. How does that change, or how do you have to adapt your social life when you got more time in your hands?
What we're talking about is do things with meaning. In the beginning, if I was you, 1 to 3 months, might even take you 6 months to decompress before you go too deeply into meaningful living again. Maybe you do just need to kind of squeeze out the sponge. I get that. There is a decompressed stage, but anticipate a shift in your social life during retirement. It's centered around your professional activities. You got to transition into new activities. Maybe you pick up your sports, play a little bit of sports, whether that's pickleball or whatever. People are loving. They're fanatical about pickleball. I don't recommend picking up a controller though and punching around and playing games on the internet much. But little mind games. Make sure you keep your mind sharp. Explore new social outlets, such as put yourself out there in retired life. A lot of people put themselves out there and volunteer, but volunteer with a purpose. Don't just go over there. Help at the soup kitchen. How can I bring in more food? How can I talk to some of these people and maybe get them off the dependency of the help kitchen? Because they all like to, a lot of those, thing that bothers me, and I know it's not all of them, but I'm just going to be critical right now. There's not enough focus on transitioning people back into being responsible for themselves. Maybe you start something like that. Who can I mentor to help them transition? I'm not talking about giving them money either. I'm talking about them pulling themselves up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, you're right, because there's other things you can do as well in a social setting. Maybe join a club, do other things with your family. I mean, maybe you sometimes, when you got onto that treadmill and that rat race of working 50 and 60 hours a week when you worked, now you've got more time to spend with your loved ones. Maybe not your wife. Or husband.
He said that.
That's right.
There you go. Look at him with the saving grace, husband.
I'm only saying that because I'm living that as well. Because after being married 48 years, 24 of which actually counted because I was gone traveling quite a bit in my profession. It's always good to be together, but too much togetherness can ruin a good thing too. So your family is there. I guess put everything in the proper position and moderation. I guess when we talk about moderation, it goes that way. As long as you're happy and you're spending the time with your loved ones that you want, and also taking care of your own fitness, right? I know you're big on the fitness thing.
Oh. Yeah, I'm big on the fitness. I can't run a marathon, but I can run 3 miles. I bike, not 100 miles a week, but probably 100 miles a month.
Wow.
I have a routine that, I have what I did, what worked for me, and I think it would work for a lot of people. A lot of people say, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to work out an hour and a half, 7 days a week, yada, yada, yada. I would have this, and my workouts last anywhere from 35 to 55 minutes on my main workout, but I also have a light workout for all of those days. That's only 20 minutes. My goal is to maintain the habit. Remember, you don't rise to your goals, you fall to your habits. I just want to maintain the habit because there's just days I absolutely don't want to work out. But normally when I get into that 20 minutes, I'll go ahead and push it on over to the 50, 55 minute, anywhere from 35 to 55 minute type workout. And I also do a lot of stretching, break it up throughout the day. I get up in the morning, about 15 minutes of warming up my muscles and stretching a little bit, and then get my day going before I even have my coffee. So it's things like that. It's little triggers. It's teaching yourself little triggers to help you keep moving. Remember, your goal is to maintain the habit. Don't worry about anything else. Look at the end of 30 days and say, darn, I skipped 5 days out of the last 30 that I was supposed to work out. This month, I'm going to do my best to bring that down to 0. Yeah. And I think that's the key. Everybody just kind of goes all out. They think they can be a Riley Gaines or something who starts out at 4 years old practicing 3 hours a day swimming. Not everybody can be that person, or a Wayne Gretzky, and that's okay. Be the person that you are, but keep that body in shape.
Absolutely true. You know, we're talking to Brian Gaiser here, this first segment here of Wealth Through Wisdom with Brian Gaiser, about keeping yourself sound in that transition time between work and your retired years. And one thing that is sure that you better prepare for as we wrap this segment up is your income change, right?
There might be a little income change. Now that paycheck has stopped, and you're dependent on Social Security, and then Social Security gets you about 60% of the way, or however much it gets you, you've got to fill that gap. And you got to fill that gap, Chuck, intelligently. Yes, you got to fill that gap intelligently. So when you retire, your income ceases, relying on your retirement savings to support you, right? That's what we're doing. And we don't want to draw that down so fast that we run out of money before we run out of life. That's the goal. So the extent of income change depends on the retirement planning and financial preparation. I'm a big fan of guaranteed income in retirement, which is your Social Security. Maybe you have some pensions, and you can create your own pension. There's many financial tools out there that can really create a strong, guaranteed lifetime income, but there's only one that says, hey, you run out of money in this account, we're going to keep sending you a check. There's only certain companies that can do that, and that's insurance companies. So you want to look into that as an option. My goal in retirement, and yours should be, I want surplus income in retirement. Surplus income in retirement is number one. What does that mean? Surplus income that will last throughout my lifetime. So if I need $8,000 and I've got $12,000 coming in a month, I'm probably in good shape because I can continue to invest in myself. Also, that beats down inflation and also running out of money before I run out of life. So very important to budget, think through. You invest for income first, growth second. And then in the last, you make sure that you cover expenses that will cover you for protection, like long-term care, umbrella insurance, possibly life insurance in the case of a short life. I just had a client die who in the last couple of weeks here that in October looked great. He left my office a couple of days later, went to the doctor, has pancreatic cancer, and he passed away. And what a good soul he was. I had no idea. He was gone by January 8th. You'd have never known it to look at him on that day back in October. So, folks, it does happen. You got to think these things through. But, Chuck, you know what really helps? It's that plan. It's that financial plan. I work with our investment team, our partners loaded with CFPs and CFAs. And what we do is we put together a plan built for you. We're going to take in consideration your income, number one. We're going to make sure we structure your plan around an income plan that gives you surplus income. We're going to explore the protection route, and we're also going to look at it from a standpoint of growth. That's why I work with a team. Folks, if you want a team-built plan for retirement that will take a lot of pressure, a lot of anxiety out of and a lot of guesswork, if you will, out of what's going to happen to me in retirement, give us a call. Chuck, tell them how.
All right, it starts with that core plan, leads to a comprehensive one, and it's 888-959-1641. That's the number to reach Brian Gaiser for that toll, no cost, no obligation, toll-free number of 888-959-1641 to get that complimentary review of your situation right now, because it starts with that core plan, leads to a comprehensive one, and that's what Wealth Through Wisdom is all about with Brian Gaiser. Once again, he's got people standing by to take your information, so make that phone call right now at 888-959-1641. What's happening in the next segment?
Well, Chuck, how has retirement planning evolved over the past 50 years? Traditional retirement planning might not be ideal in the modern world. We've got some tips to make sure your plan is up to date right after this.
How's the market doing?
It's fine.
How's the market doing now?
The same as it was 5 seconds ago.
Stop worrying about market volatility. A good retirement plan will keep you from panicking. Get that solid retirement plan with lifetime income and protection from retirement pitfalls. Call Brian Gaiser of Gaiser Financial, 888-285-0829, 888-285-0829.
Well, Through Wisdom with Brian Gaiser continuing. I'm Chuck Caton with the creator of the P4 Retirement Process, which is your financial compass. He's got the heart of a teacher. You know all about that, and he's Greensboro's own. And with Brian Gaiser's Wealth Through Wisdom proposition and his formula, it's all about being proactive, planning, pursuing, and prospering. Watch him on ABC 45 every Sunday at 6 on Wealth Through Wisdom television as well. Well, the rapid evolution of retirement planning has grown by leaps and bounds in the last few decades, and it would really be a shame not to take advantage of what we can do with helping you financially plan with tools and strategies over the past 50 years, so that the traditional retirement can be yours, and maybe even tweak it and improve on it, improve on that traditional retirement that our parents and grandparents knew. So we're going to talk about phasing out traditional retirement and now go into modern retirement advancements that are helping people like you build your own personal pensions. And this is, I know, what Brian talks about so many times before, with the surplus income in retirement, right, Brian? And that maybe is the crux, I should say, of what is the difference between a traditional retirement and what we would call modern retirement.
You know, it is. It's traditional retirement, modern retirement. What we're talking about here when we're talking traditional and modern, well, things have changed greatly. Things move so much more quickly. We have supercomputers compared to 50 years ago, Chuck. We have, just a fast-paced society. We have big organizations like teaming up, such as Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, companies like that are teaming up, trying to control the narrative, if you will, trying to put pressure on a lot of companies like Target and many others to follow their rules. And so things have changed greatly. Your average 60-40, where the playing field was pretty level, well, the playing field's a little out of whack. And that traditional 60-40, 60% equity, 40% bonds, is not really going to cut it anymore. You're going to have a mix, mixing in real estate, mixing in gold and precious metals, mixing in different areas when it comes to retirement, different asset classes to different sectors. There's so much more with it today. It moves so fast. It takes a team. And so, the difference between this is that, we back in the day too, Chuck, when we retired back in the day, you had pensions. Now, some pensions were much smaller than others, as you mentioned, from time to time. But there were some pretty healthy pensions, especially in government, especially as teachers, things of that nature. And just everywhere you turned around, and most of the big corporations had pensions. Yeah. And they started wanting you to buy them out. And you've got to create your own pension today. So it's a whole different world. So from traditional to modern, things have changed. You've got to keep up with the times. You got to keep your growth there. You got to create your own pension. And you hope the Social Security pension doesn't run out on you as well.
Well, of course, that shift went from pensions to 401k plans as well. I think we'll talk about that just briefly in a second. But another thing that's changed over the last 50 years, and we're talking about changes in your retirement thinking from traditional to modern, is that there are people living longer today. Life expectancy is a lot greater than it was 50 years ago.
If you make it to 65, you got a 1 in 3 chance you'll turn 90. And if you make it to 65, you got a 1 in 7 chance you'll make it to age 95. That's pretty good. So you're well on your way, Chuck. And it's just so increasing life expectancy. Obviously, that falls into, look at the inflation right now. What if you were 80 years old and you just went through this little phase over the last 3 years, and the inflation is just through the roof? And inflation is nothing but design taxation without legislation. It's designed, it's through policy. It's driven by policy. And that's exactly what drove up this inflation. Nothing more, nothing less. And so we got to think about it from that standpoint. And any time the government can pull that trigger. Folks, this 2024 is one bizarre year. You better enter this year with your eyes wide open and really think through. They're already even talking a new pandemic. Isn't it funny? It happens to fall during an election year. Isn't that bizarre? And they're already talking there's some type of something X. Forgot what it was called. Generation X. It's 20 times more deadly than COVID and yada, yada, yada.
Baloney.
Yeah. Exactly. And isn't it funny? It just falls right here during election year and opens the year with this. So it's just a bunch of crap. This must be, folks, they're starting it again. Don't fall for it. Make sure you take care of yourself. Read beyond the lines, especially media. 90% owned by 3 big corporations. So they're driving the narrative. Be careful with that. So you got to just be careful. I mean, longevity is a big part of it, Chuck.
Absolutely true. Now, I go back 50 years ago. That's the year I met my wife. And so that really hits home with me. Never in my wildest imagination would I have even thought about Social Security at that time. But there have been a number of changes over the last 5 decades when it comes to Social Security, right?
Yeah, you used to get started at 65, and then it went to 66, and now it's 67. And I guarantee you within the next 5 to 10 years, it'll be 68. I'm saying more closer to the 5-year mark. And it should. We're living longer, so I think it should be pushed out. But at the same token, supposedly it's going to run out in 33. It was going to run out back in the early 80s when they make changes. Went from 0 tax to 50% of it's potentially taxed to 85%. It's probably just about to move to 100% taxed. They're probably going to cut it out for extreme wealth, which in the future, probably going to tax. They're going to continue to raise the amount that they do tax for Social Security, because right now it's at about $168,000 this year that they tax for the employment tax to fund the Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. And then they threw 10 more million people in their last 3 years onto it at our expense. So, I mean, there's no reason you would do something then opposite if you want to fix it and then throw people on it that have never put a dime into it. So, but that's what we're doing. And so, because they keep robbing from Social Security. So Social Security's changed a whole lot. I hope it's there. I see a reduction in it potentially. But also your saving grace is, Chuck, is that it is the largest voting sector. So you mess with it too much, you're not going to get back in, possibly, unless they control the voting with this crazy disease again. And we got to mail out thousands to everybody, millions and millions of voter registration and voter so hopefully that doesn't happen. But if it does, you heard it here first. Right here. With Chuck and Brian.
Not gonna. That's right. You're not going to get fooled again. To quote the WHO, that's ridiculous. No vaccine, no nothing. Forget about it. Anyway,
treatment.
Speaking of healthcare, obviously healthcare costs have skyrocketed over the last decade or so. Never mind the last 50 years, right? So you got to factor that in your retirement. When we talk traditional retirement versus retirement today.
Yeah, you've got to think about it. And when it comes to healthcare, 1, take care of your health. 2, if you got to drop some pounds, drop some pounds. Yeah, it sucks, but just do it. Get out there, get a general good routine, things of that nature, like we talked about. But it's significant. I see them pushing back Medicare and making us wait longer and pay more for Medicare. They're, it just went up again. I think $10 or something like that for the Part B again this year. We had a 3.2% raise. They're going to start bringing that back. All they did is give you that 8.7 and 3.2 so they could give you 1 for 5 years in a row. And you watch, it's coming around the corner. It's the only way they can make it last. So, I mean, Social Security has changed. Healthcare has changed. They kind of run together when you're in retirement. But healthcare has definitely changed. And you better start thinking for yourself and ask strong questions when you go see a doctor and all. And you just... it's a different monkey, and you better look into alternatives. There's going to be a lot of I don't know what they call it, but when you go to it, like I just got back from St. Kitts back in October, and they have a hospital there that does knee replacements and all kinds of stuff, where doctors from around the world have built a hospital there, and you can fly in and for a fraction of the cost, get the type of surgery you're trying to get in the United States. Not recommending that, but at the same token, that's going to become big because people can't afford it, from dental work down in Mexico and all kinds of stuff. Dental is through the roof.
Absolutely true. And as we wrap it up very quickly, we've got to remember that there may have been inflation 50 years ago, but we've got it again, and that has to enter into your investment considerations when you weigh what modern retirement's all about.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking, you better have a little bit of gold positions in your portfolio. In addition to that, you better look into it at the bare minimum, but precious metals, dividend portfolios, dividends is a great, when you stop working, you can't put into your 401k and IRAs and things, but your dividends can continue to reinvest. So that's a way to invest in yourself. We kind of position folks from that standpoint. You want to look at companies that buy back their own stock. They're usually healthier. Doesn't mean it's always right. Some of them do it for malicious reasons, but you've got to really just say, hey, this is what it is. I need to think about it. But folks, what you need to do is you need to get some direction. You need to get your own compass. You need to get your own financial plan, your own retirement plan. Our investment team, we have CFPs, CFAs on staff that we work with to build you a plan from a practicality standpoint, from a growth standpoint, from an income standpoint. We look at the big picture. We're going to explore your income situation. We're going to make sure we structure you a plan that has surplus income in retirement. That's going to explore the protection that you may need from long-term care, life insurance, any of those things that may be of necessary. Maybe you already have some. Maybe you already have something with built cash plan and a life insurance plan. I just converted one where a person doesn't have to pay a premium anymore and got a larger death benefit. So you got to look at these types of things. Spending plan. Make sure you are becoming your own CEO of your retirement. You've got to have a spending plan. You got to stick with that spending plan. And also you got to focus on enjoying your retirement. Let us do the hard work. Let us do the heavy lifting. Give us an opportunity to put together a plan that'll work for you. It's not just going to happen, but Chuck will tell you how.
Absolutely. It's easy to do by calling 888-959-1641. That's 888-959-1641, because there's no cost, no obligation, ladies and gentlemen, to get a better handle on your financial situation, to find out what your investments are really costing you, maybe with high fees and commissions. That can be fettered out as well by Brian Gaiser and his team at Gaiser Financial. What are your future tax implications? How much income can you securely generate from that investment setup that you have? And what do you want to do in retirement? All of those assessments, all of those consultations can be taking place with a fiduciary like Brian Gaiser, who has got your best interest in mind, because it starts with a core plan and it leads to a comprehensive one. It's all costing nothing to meet with Brian Gaiser. No cost, no obligation. Wealth Through Wisdom at 888-959-1641. We've got to take a break. Brian, what's coming up in the next segment?
Well, in segment 3, risk and retirement, Chuck. Let's help exchange risk in return for income in retirement. We cover that right after this.
At Gaiser Financial, we believe in better. A better way to invest, a better way to serve you, and a better result. Our P4 process begins with us listening. Take advantage of our complimentary retirement strategy session by calling Brian Gaiser, host of Better Living and president of Gaiser Financial, at 888-285-0829. That's 888-285-0829.
Wealth Through Wisdom continuing with Brian Gaiser. Chuck Caton here, along with Greensboro's own, the creator of the P4 retirement process, which is your financial compass. He is Brian Gaiser. You see him on ABC 45 Sunday nights at 6 on Wealth Through Wisdom Television. And again, that number is 888-959-1641. No cost, no obligation. As we remind you, he has people standing by to take your information so that he can get back to you to make that appointment an easy one for you. Again, no cost, no obligation. And it is 888-959-1641. Well, how do you help work alongside folks in building a plan that takes into account income sources in retirement, offering more security in the long run? Well, Brian Gaiser can answer that. This is what this show's all about, right?
It absolutely is all about that.
That and some commentary too, because of the times we live in with the I won't call him an idiot, but some people that work in Washington D.C. Not on our behalf.
Many.
Yeah.
It's 20. I'm just going to be point blank. 2024. Better look out for the black swan. They're already hinting. They're hinting at this latest pandemic that the WHO wants, and I do mean wants, and works in cahoots. And you better watch this thing, because imagine what came out after the fact with this whole COVID pandemic. And now that we see the light and that treatment was number one, you better pay attention, because this year things are going to roll pretty good. I see possible cuts in the summer, but they might hold back on those cuts. But I feel if there's going to be any possible cuts in rates, that's going to happen this summer. This is really the year you better be thinking. You better have a plan. You better have an outlet. You better have a fire escape. And I'm not kidding. That is this year. But, when it comes to, a great place to start when running a risk assessment is a great idea. Number one, and that's what we do. So in other words, if you're like, man, am I taking too much risk? What do I really have? Do I have dividend stocks? Are they not dividend stocks? A lot of people ask these questions. What is this mutual fund made of? What are the expenses? Let's run a risk assessment. Let's look at it. If you think I'm taking about half the risk of the market. And when we say that, we're talking about the S&P 500. S&P 500 is a 100. That means you're taking maximum risk or maximum risk of the S&P. Anything above that, you're taking even more risk than the S&P. But that's pretty much the benchmark that is used when it comes to equities. And you might think you're taking a 50 or 40% risk. I have a lot of conservative stuff. And then then we run an assessment. You end up with a 68 score or 75, and you're really taking 75%. And you want to back off of that. The best place to look is, hey, let's look at the numbers. And what we're talking about is risk tolerance, Chuck, and risk capacity. And the difference is the degree of loss. When it comes to risk tolerance, the degree of loss willing to endure, a person is willing to endure. So in other words, the loss that I potentially could experience will take 8, 9, 10 months, a year to come out of that. So in other words, what it really boils down to is time in the market, not time in the market. But if time in the market, you don't have 8 or 9 or 10 months with the monies that you have set aside for growth, then you're probably taking too much risk. Then there's risk capacity, the amount of risk an individual requires to meet their own goals. So, hey, I want to have this much money in the next 5 years and draw this much off of my money. It's all about balance. It's all about saying, what's my capacity? What's my tolerance? The best way to take care of capacity and tolerance is, hey, you get income right. You get your flow right. You have surplus income in retirement. You can invest in yourself. Think about it. You kind of defeat both of those areas, especially risk tolerance, because you will give yourself more time, because I don't need that money right now. I have surplus income. I have a loaded rainy day bucket.
Absolutely. And when you're looking at risk in terms of retirement, where you withdraw that money is also a key. Withdrawal strategies are very important.
It's an understatement. Yeah, where you withdraw that money is a key. It's all about where you draw, especially in the early years. Do you draw from your IRA? Do you draw from your Roth? Do you draw from your pension, your Social Security? Well, clearly you're going to draw from your pension and Social Security. You've started those. You're covering the gap with your savings, which would be Roth, non-qualified IRA. Hope you have a Roth. Should I do Roth conversions? Things of that nature. Folks, you want to try to whittle down that IRA before they take control of telling you how much you got to take out of it, because they're starting to change those numbers and increase them on you, thinking they're doing you a favor by pushing it back to 72. What that did is allow them to change the number so that they can take more, and over the long run, they'll win out. Or maybe you'll leave more now that the person that inherits your IRA has to take it out over a 10-year period following your death. And really what it boils down to is a withdrawal strategy that's tax efficient is the key. But also sometimes you want to be taxed more if it's from a standpoint of, hey, I'm going to start putting a lot of this in the Roth in the event they change the tax rules and really jack up rates. And right now in 2025, we are set to get our rates jacked up. So you better be thinking about this today, and maybe should you explore a Roth conversion plan.
Risk and retirement, that's what we're talking about this segment here of Wealth Through Wisdom with Brian Gaiser. So what about people who are already in the financial red zone? Is it too late for them to be thinking about this, and how can they adjust?
Well, you're alive, so it's not too late. That's number one. But the major factors to be aware of if you are in the 5 to 10 year window before retirement is, what have I done to consider my income? How is my income be distributed to me? How am I going to distribute it to me where it's surplus, number one, and I have more income so that I can continue to invest in myself? How do I turn that hard-earned savings into an income plan? once you take care of that income plan, then you know how much you can set aside for investing for growth. And then you can look at your risk tolerance from that standpoint, go back to that risk assessment that was created in the beginning and go, well, you know what, if things did get down, but I'm well diversified, I have really good dividend paying stocks that are continuing to invest in me. Even when the market's down, that means I'm buying more shares, because the name of the game between a dividend portfolio, in my opinion, is let's build stock, because when the market does get good again, I have way more stock, so I'm doing a whole lot better. So it's really get the income right, move to growth, make sure you have built into that income plan expenses for long-term care, for life insurance if needed. Make sure you cover yourself with an umbrella policy. In other words, you just want to mark out the hazards as much as possible so that your money does last. Most of us do want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a legacy for my children. I don't want them to just face it, but I'm going to live the life I want to live. It's up to them with the skills I've given them to do it for themselves.
Absolutely. Now you have a partner. Everybody knows that when you're in retirement. So what about those taxes when Uncle Sam and Aunt Caroline come calling?
You know, I didn't even know there were taxes, but if you say there are, I'll just believe you, Chuck. But
okay.
Yes, you know, you got to consider taxes. And the best way to consider taxes is, how do I pay the least amount legally, of course? How do I pay the least amount? How much should I get out of the way now and allow a Roth to continue to build tax-free on my behalf? How should I invest Roth money, IRA money? How should I draw off of these accounts? When is my first required minimum distribution? All these type of questions, Chuck, people have to answer when they're in this position. They got to think about it from a standpoint of, hey, I've got to put together a plan that is proactive towards tax, not just, okay, it's the end of the year, let me wait on my W-2s and 1099s and determine how much tax do I owe. Should I put money in an IRA? Should I not? Should I put it in a Roth? That's what we do. It's called, once again, folks, I'm going to say it again. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your habits. Your goal is to pay the least amount of taxes, but your habit is, I'm going to wait till the end of the year. I'm going to talk about it all year, but I'm going to wait till the end of the year. Through procrastination, the old man procrastination comes along, and it takes you out of the equation. So you got to think about this from that standpoint where, hey, let me be proactive on taxes. This time I'm going to be proactive. You know, you really should live life off of milestones, accomplishing milestones with one goal in mind, your day-to-day balanced life. It's all about a day-to-day balanced life, achieving milestones on a regular basis. That's the ultimate goal. I'd focus on the ultimate goal, because milestones, at least you can create a clear plan to that milestone and know there's 100 more right behind it, which is wonderful, because each time you it's kind of like finding a little bit of gold each time you achieve one, right? And it doesn't go away. When you reach a goal, sometimes that can be depressing. A lot of people that are gamble freaks, and they pull that lever and they win, they almost get extremely depressed. It's a phenomena that's really out there. You can do that with goals. That's why a lot of people don't attain goals, because when they attain them, it also includes pain. Milestones means, oh, there's another one around the corner. Oh, there's another egg. It's like Easter egg hunting. Then there's many, many, many out there. Change your mindset to one ultimate goal, that I live a balanced life day to day, and chase after milestones. But the big thing people need to do, Chuck, they need to build a plan. It really is all about the plan. Building a retirement plan. Our investment team, we have CFAs and CFPs on our investment team that help us build a plan. We deal with the practicality as much as the financial. We deal with your growth, your income. We look at these protection ideas and determine, hey, is this a likely chance I might need long-term care? If so, how would I fund it? You still need to discover all of these things. It's a big discovery process. That first appointment, big discovery process. Then we build a plan specific to you. It's not a cookie cutter. Folks, step up to the plate. Give us a call. I'd love to meet you. I'd love to get an opportunity to work with you. And guess what? You don't even have to become a client to take advantage of this offer. Chuck will tell you how.
Well, the first step is to visit with a financial coach, and that is Brian Gaiser. If you want to learn about wealth through wisdom, it's 888-959-1641. That's 888-959-1641. And if something that we've been talking about here on the program resonates with you and you want to get maybe a second opinion, if you have a person right now that you think is helping you out, give Brian Gaiser an opportunity to review your individual circumstances. And again, it's all at no cost and no obligation. So it's 888-959-1641. That's 888-959-1641. People are standing by right now to take your information. And Brian will get back to you to make that no-cost, no-obligation appointment. And again, it's 888-959-1641. Fast-moving show, Brian, but we've got one more segment.
They really are, and the half hour moves even faster, believe it or not. I'm just kidding. But folks, you've got questions, and we have you covered with some financial planning question and answers right after the break, so stay tuned.
Many of us look forward to the day we retire. We look forward to having more time to spend with our families, enjoying every day, and maybe even taking that dream vacation out on the open road. Don't let the fear of uncertainty turn your retirement dream into a retirement nightmare. We can help you see how much risk you're taking, potential red flags that could cause problems for you down the road, such as tax liability, as well as a big one, how much you're paying in fees or commissions with your current plan or advisor. Call for a consultation, 888-285-0829, 888-285-0829. Brian Gaiser of Gaiser Financial will take the time to get to know you, your retirement goals, get to know your unique financial situation and building an income and protection and proper growth in your retirement plan, utilizing his P4 retirement process. 888-285-0829. Brian Gaiser, 888-285-0829.
Funny money or not so funny money? This time, we're talking about funny money.
When I was a kid, I collected wheat-back pennies. Well, that's what I call them, at least. They're really just wheat pennies. I had a bunch of them stored in an old cigar box. The back featured the words 1 cent in bold letters, E pluribus unum, and 2 wheat stalks on each side. Now, I have no idea where they are today, but I doubt I'd be rich if I found them. Most wheat pennies minted between 1909 and 1956 are worth about 4 to 5 cents. I'm guessing I had about 200 or so if I still had them, I'd be looking at a huge payday of $10.
Yippee!
But there are a few rare wheat pennies worth thousands. Here's just one example. There's one from 1945 that's worth $50,000. Apparently, when the die was struck onto the planchet, it created a unique pattern. Some of the letters of E pluribus unum appear inside the crack in the surface of the coin. Really? That's it? And that's why it's worth $49,999.95 more than the ones I had? Had, of course, being the key word. Who knows? I may have had that one. Well, anyway, pennies make dollars, and more dollars make for a better retirement. For Funny Money, I'm Dave Perkins.
Well, Through Wisdom with Brian Gaiser, we'll conclude with our question and answer segment. And remember, you're talking to the creator of the P4 retirement process, which is your financial compass. I'm Chuck Gayton with Brian Gaiser, and he always implores you to be proactive, plan, pursue, and prosper. And remember that he is right here in the triad for you. All right, we've got 3 or 4 questions here, and then I know you've got some philosophical thoughts as well on this program, Brian. So are you all set to go?
Yes, sir.
All right. It's Kristen in Danville, Virginia, who wants to know, with myself and my husband married and filing jointly, we make about $150,000 combined and are in our late 40s right now, but neither have a 401k, but we do have $30,000 in a traditional IRA and $50,000 in a high-yield savings account, a HISA or HISA. How do you want to pronounce that anyway? HISA?
High yield savings account.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I should have known.
Yes, a HISA. Who cares?
Well, Kristen still says I still need to make a $6,500 IRA contribution for 2023. So should I put it in my, all right, what's a TIRA then? Now it's a TIRA, traditional IRA? Oh, okay.
There you go.
Or an ROTH. What's that? A Roth. Oh, okay.
Roth.
So,
there you go.
So she wants
Chuck,
to know.
you're on your game today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I love acronyms, you know. Anyway, she wants to know whether she should put it in that traditional IRA or the Roth, that $6,500 that she needs to contribute from last year.
Yeah, one of them's that TIRA is an acronym, but the Roth is actually somebody's last name from 1998 when the Roths came into our presence. Seems so much longer than that, but that's as long as it's been here. You know, where taxes are going as young as you are in your 40s, you don't, you know, you have about, what is it, traditional IRA and about 50,000 in a high savings account, 30,000 in an IRA. Well, one, you both can contribute 6,500, so I would probably think about that first off. This year you can contribute about 7,000 each. I would think about going ahead and hit both of them up if you can, because you got that money in a high yield savings, you're able to do that. Reason I say that is if anything you stuff in a Roth, the principal's available to you day one, you might as well grow that interest tax free if the principal's still available to you. Now, if you draw any of that principal back out of there, in other words, you put $6,500 into a Roth IRA, 3 months later you draw $500 out of the principal, you can't turn around and put that back, but at least you know it's available to you. Make sure you have a rainy day fund, which you do. You have 50,000 here, and I'm talking about looking at about half of it and put it into, or a little more than half, and put it into a Roth IRA and be highly focused on dollar cost averaging that Roth IRA throughout the year, both of you. But you could put for last year and this year, you could go ahead and put funds in if you can, dollar cost average throughout the year if you want to, but I'd go ahead and get that thing jumped up quick, get you some reasonable index funds and S&P, what have you. But then you've got to watch it too. But dollar cost average in over time, you've got a good ways off before you do retire. You said you're late 40s, so you're about to hit that 50 range, 55 range is when you get into the red zone. And hopefully you guys can accumulate $400,000 before you get into the red zone, and then get yourself up to about $1 million when you do retire, although $1 million in 15 years, God only knows what it's going to look like. But that being said, right now, form the habits. Remember, you rise to your goal. You don't rise to your goals, rather you fall to your habits. And I mean, get the habits. It's all about changing just 1%, getting a little better each day. But great question, Kristen.
All right, Jonna is in Greensboro and said, unfortunately, her husband passed away 6 months ago and left her a significant amount of life insurance. It's much more money than we've ever had during our 30 years of marriage. So she wants to know, Brian, what's the first step for her to take in deciding how to handle it, financially speaking?
30 years of marriage, I'm coming up on 25 years of marriage and 30 years and that we've been together, and I'm still in my 50s. My wife is in her early 50s. And so I'm not sure where you are in life as far as age, but if you're 65, I'd definitely be strongly interested in income. If you're 55, I would look at conservative investing with some good dividend stock paying investing as well mixed in there. But how much longer are you going to work? Start planning when you are going to retire. Do a risk assessment on what you're currently doing, if you have any investment assets. And I would be really, really highly focused on knowing what my income is going to look like when I do retire, and then invest the rest and make sure you're protecting yourself, because if you're by yourself, it's kind of hard to take care of yourself in a long-term care situation. You might be young enough that you can look at traditional, but I would look more at other alternatives when it comes to long-term care and things of that nature. But what you really need, Yana, is a plan. Build yourself a plan right now so that you're not just walking blindly into the woods. You got paths to follow.
All right, let's go to Oak Ridge now. Lenny is there with this question. He says, I've got $75,000 sitting in a checking account at the bank. Not part of my emergency fund, though. So what can I do with this money to put it to work for me? Thank you.
And one of it's one of those high yield checking accounts. No, it's Hischica.
Yeah, like 0.01%, right? Yeah.
It's 75,000. It's not part of your emergency fund. Hopefully you have a good 40, 50. I'm a big fan of a year's income if you don't, but if you don't, even if you got 6 months, that's good. Putting this to work, it depends on your risk tolerance. Once again, you got to do that risk tolerance assessment. I would look at, you've got fixed accounts, or you can just start slowly dollar cost averaging maybe into a reasonable portfolio that also takes into consideration a black swan year potential, especially they're already starting to talk that crazy language again. And ironically, it falls in a perfect timing for an election year. If it doesn't speak volumes, I don't know what does. But that being said, I would definitely sit down, plan it out, not just throw it into a fund and hope for the best. That's really where you are, Lenny. It's just, again, it just falls back to doing good planning, living by a spending budget, things of that nature, and along with investing this $75,000 properly.
All right, and finally, from Lexington, we've got Ray saying when people give that general goal for retirement, the 75 to 80% of your working income, is that net or gross? And does that still hold true today? I don't know anybody that wants to have 85% of their lifestyle or 15% of it cut out, though. Do you, Brian?
No, but what if, you had extreme surplus income while living? I only live on a fraction of my income. So it just depends. Everything's so different. It all depends on how you look at it and how it's said. So how much money have you lived on? If you were living on $5,000 and you were making $10,000, you're really living on 50% of your income. So you're probably looking at some of your expenses changing, but your expenses are going to stay pretty close to the same. It's how much were you making is really what was important. So 75 to 85% is as true as what's important to you. My brother could live off of 25% of his income, but he loves to hike, live off the land, and all kinds of things of that nature. He's a different cat. Myself, forget that. I don't mind. I love to hike. I love the Appalachian Trail. I visit a part of it every single year. And I think those things are fun, but I don't want to live off I don't want to carry a knife into the woods and come out 2 weeks later and survive, naked and what is ever that crazy show is, naked and naked and afraid, going out into the woods and half naked with one instrument. And, I don't know. Nothing about that excites me. I'm excited for the people it does excite. I just don't like to get ate up by bugs or whatever type of theme they're trying to get across. But it really just boils down to you got to go, hey, here's my expenses. This is what will give me a great life. Build you a spending plan around it. You're going to become your CEO one day, Ray, of your own in retirement. And that's all that really matters. And then make sure that if you need $5,000, you better have $7,000 or $8,000 coming in so that you can continue to invest in yourself. And I can't say that any more plainly.
All right. Yeah, I know you've got a couple of final thoughts here very quickly before we wrap it up.
Yeah, just real quick, folks. I want it to be quick. Once again, I'm going to reiterate 7 habits of highly effective people. Probably one of the biggest things I pulled out of that is live by a schedule. Very critical to following your habits. And the way he described it was, people say, I don't want to live by a schedule. It restricts me. But if the truth is, living by a schedule opens up the day for you. Just imagine if you had a room with no closets and no dresser drawers, how messy things would be. That's what it is if you're not living by a schedule. You got a room with no closets or dresser drawers. Atomic habits, once again, I'm going to state this because it's so important. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your habits. And it's so true. Just try to get a little better each day. But folks, it boils down to building a plan. Putting together a plan that works for you. That does include a spending plan. That does include a schedule. That's what it's all about. Let's build a plan that's built on income generation. Let's build a plan that explores protection for you, your growth plan. Let's build a plan that says, hey, here's my retirement goals and how I want to live my life. Let's build a plan around that. Chuck will tell you how.
All right, it's easy to do. It's a toll-free call, and it's no cost, no obligation to get advice that shows you how important it is to meet with a financial coach like Brian Gaiser, who understands the ins and outs of the financial world. And you can do that by calling 888-959-1641. That's 888-959-1641. There's no cost, no obligation to get a better handle on your financial situation as you approach retirement. You're in that retirement red zone. Let's see if you're on the right path, and the path based on your risk preferences. We talked about risk today, your budget, your goals, what you want to do in retirement. So that's why you should meet with Brian Gaiser, because it's all about wealth through wisdom. And it's 888-959-1641. Let's see about the core plan and see if it can jive to become a comprehensive one. And that's where Brian Gaiser can help you out to and through. That's 888-959-1641. And again, he's got people standing by, so don't be afraid. Don't procrastinate. That's not one of the P's in the P4 retirement process. It's to be proactive, to plan, to pursue, and to prosper. So make that phone call, because he's got people standing by to take your information so that he can call you back and make that no cost, no obligation appointment with you. 888-959-1641. Brian, it's been a great show. I know you've got some final thoughts.
Yes, I do, folks. Genius is the ability to reduce the complicated to the simple. Retirement is complicated. Let's make it simple. Hope you have a great weekend. Speak at you next week.
Brian Gaiser is an investment advisor representative of Advisory Alpha LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. All opinions expressed by Brian Gaiser are solely his own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Advisory Alpha. This recording is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Investment advisory and financial planning services offered through Advisory Alpha LLC, a registered investment advisor. Insurance, coaching, and education services offered through Gaiser Financial Group. Gaiser Financial Group is a separate and unaffiliated entity from Advisory Alpha LLC. While tax and legal issues may be discussed in the general course of financial and investment planning, Advisory Alpha does not provide tax or legal services. Please consult with your tax or legal professional prior to making decisions relative to these issues. This radio show is not endorsed or approved by the Social Security Office or any other government agency. An annuity is a long-term financial product designed largely for asset accumulation and retirement needs. All guarantees are backed by the claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company.